Welcome to the Human Design and Astro Club. And this is an interview episode. My name's Crystal. I'm a 1-3 sacral generator, and I am here to help you win at the game called life. And so today I have a very special guest. Her name is Adriana. She's a 4-6 emotional manifesting generator. I'm going to pass the mic over to her so she can do her own introduction. And today, I just want to let you know we are talking about children. So stick around. If you have kids or if you want to understand how to apply human design, because that's what we're talking about today, to your children's lives. So, Adriana, go ahead and say hello.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm Adriana Keefe. I'm an intuitive human design expert and speaker in Central Massachusetts and a mom of 3.
Hmm.
You expected me to talk longer there because you're like, I'm trying to keep it going.
I should never underestimate a defined throat that they're going to say anything longer than 30 seconds.
I'm like, well, we're on limited time today, so I'm
Yeah,
trying
we
to
are. We
go.
are a little bit on a time crunch that we realized we were talking about the state of the world before this and kind of lost track. But one of the reasons why I wanted to bring Adriana on is one, I was also just on her podcast. So I'm going to link that episode down below. We talked about view perspective with variables. If you guys are interested in that episode, I'm going to link it down below. But in the conversation, we realized we're both raising manifestors. And we both have, and it's your daughter, right?
Yes, my oldest daughter, she's 10.
Yeah, and my oldest son.
Yeah.
And they're about the same age. Mine is 9. And so I found that really fascinating that both of our older children are around the same age and that they're both manifestors. And I found human design right before my oldest turned 2. And I have one of the funniest pictures of him that was like, oh my God, like he literally is a manifestor, of when I was in this mommy group back when I first had him. He's a 4th line. He's a 1-4 ego manifestor. If anybody's interested, we'll get into his chart momentarily. But there's a picture of him that I will never, never lose. I will take that picture with me wherever I go. Of this one time we were at a park with a bunch of the other kids and we told them we're going to take a picture of them. And so all of what I think were mostly generators all huddled together. And then there was my one little manifester. He was off to the side
That's always
and
my daughter.
he was pissed. He was he was so angry that we were taking this picture, and I'm going to send it to you after this. And you see it on his face, and I'm like, tell me you're a manifestor without telling me you're a manifestor.
That's awesome. And I can relate to that. In all of her pictures, like she does Girl Scouts, if her teachers upload pictures, it's like groups and then she's somewhere in the back or off to the side, always. And me as a mom, I used to always be like, oh my God, she's not feeling included, she's not doing this. And especially with manifestor energy, that's like kind of an anxiety of mine of her not feeling like she's included, but they don't want to be. So
Yeah. See, this is why I was like, oh my God, thank the heavens and above that I found human design when I found it when he was just so little. And he actually brought me into this mommy group. It's so interesting also the way our children are not only we're here to teach them, but they're also teaching us. And they're also like aligning to their design to our own personal experiences as well, because he formed this group. Because I worked at the Kabbalah Center. And when I was pregnant with him, they told me that I inspired them to start this mommy group with Kabbalah. And so I even helped organize it. And so I kind of like brought all the mommies together. And then one day in that group, they're like, we should hang out outside of here. And it was actually a projector that said that. And so we ended up every week we would get together a few times a week and we would go to different places. And this was before finding human design. And I would, because I like literally started that group before, like right before he was born. So, and then I was in the group when he was born, and I didn't find human design until I said he was almost 2. And so within that first year-ish, I was like, he started actually having a personality, and walking, I was like, why doesn't he want to be with these children? And I would notice he's also consecutive. I would notice that he would gravitate to one or two kids and he would ignore the rest. And so I would say, Milo. I'd be like, Milo, I would push him. Like, go, because like the generator in us, right?
Parenting
Like together.
conditioning. This is what
Yeah.
we naturally
Go,
do it, even though.
go into the group,
Yeah.
Milo. And he would get angry. And I
Mhm.
would like, why is he so annoyed? I'm like, hang out with these other kids. Don't you want to be included? And he doesn't. And so it's interesting being a fourth line manifester.
He's a 2-4. I mean, sorry, Brooklyn, she's a 2-4 too.
Oh,
So, I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, it's like a dichotomy of like wanting to be included, but also not. It is
yes.
really a weird thing. I don't know. I don't know how it breaks my brain.
I'm like, when I think about it, I was like, but he's a fourth line. He's also a mountains environment. And I just feel like and that's a fourth color, mountains. And so I'm like, there's such a connection in his chart, but then there's also this separation at the same time. He's also an innocence manifester. His motivation is innocence. And so but then the manifester is here to quote unquote lead.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't. So a lot of that push and pull in charts, I'm not gonna lie, that gets me confused, not confused, questioning. It gets me questioning and wanting to challenge the system a lot, not in like a
mhm.
bad way. I think in a healthy kind of way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How do you see that? How do you see challenging the system within our contradictions?
Let's see if I can if I can communicate this effectively. Because well, let's take like the 2 and the 4. She's a 2-4, which is
Is she emotional?
yeah, she's emotional. Yep.
Okay.
2-4 emotional manifester. And so with the two, they love, especially being a manifester, you'd think she'd really, really need even more alone time. And then feels like human design is like, just kidding. You also need these connections and you need intimacy and relationships and all of that. And there's so much, yeah, contradiction's a good word in the chart that it almost sometimes feels like we could have different labels in
Mm,
different areas and it could still make sense because somewhere else in the chart there could be something that explains that. So I
mm,
think my healthy skepticism in me is like, ooh, but you could say this with that and with this. You
hmm.
know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think there's always some sort of underlying layer also within the mechanics. Like it's
Mm.
interesting because not only is he a manifestor, which really is like you know, the self that when they feel the urge to be in the group, they show up, right? But that because that's just how it is. And manifestors, if you're listening to this, please tell us your childhood experiences. I would love to hear another manifestor's childhood experience. I love when I work with manifestors and like I tell them about my own manifestor, and then they are like, oh yeah, I remember my own version of that. And I love hearing stories of people's human design
Me too.
experiences
As a
because,
kid. Mm.
yeah, because it really shapes the person that you are now. But what's interesting is not only is he a manifester, but he's also single definition. He only has um the money line. That's his only channel. He
Oh,
has nothing
really?
else. He has nothing else. And there's actually a whole Kabbalistic
Interesting.
story around how he came to be with that channel that we won't get into because we have limited time. But yeah, he's single definition. He only has one channel. And I'll tell you something really funny about that channel though, and especially because like just watching it happen in real life, ever since he was like 4 years old, he's been asking me how to make money. It's just like but then when I tell him what he can do, I'm like, I remember I told him he can go sweep the leaves. He goes, no, I don't want to do that. Um,
Uh,
the physical labor, not interested in.
yep.
Tell me a different way.
Yep.
So it's just funny.
Brooklyn has a defined ego too, but she is ultimately an emotional authority and also single definition.
So what are her channels?
5710, the 8-1, my favorite, personal favorite.
Is it?
2551, 4037.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Okay, so she
She's a
does
powerful little beast.
that.
Hmm.
I
She's
would
a force, yeah.
Yeah, when she walks into a room, I'm sure she commands it. She also can bring people together. But
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
this just I'm gonna curse for a second, guys. I love the 2551 because it's the Audi of the ego. Okay, because all the other three channels are tribal, right? The 4426, the 3740, the 2145. It's all tribal. It's all about reciprocity, except for that
Mhm.
2551, the channel of initiation. That channel says, fuck you. Uh,
Yep.
where all the other ego channels are saying, fuck us, fuck them, or whatever. No. 2551 says fuck you. Everyone that I see with that channel, they're going their own way.
hmm Yeah, we
They're-
just went to Great Wolf Lodge. So that was our Christmas gift. So this weekend we were at the indoor water park full of people. And if I just gently like take her shoulder and move her in so that people can pass us, it happens every time. She gets so angry. She gets furious with me.
don't tell me
The
what to
look
do.
she gives me, oh my God. And then I'm just like, dude, I would have gotten smacked if I were you as a kid. Like, what? So it's interesting parenting her
Tell
for
me
sure.
about that. Tell me how it's been to raise a manifester.
Well, for one, when she has these creative urges, I've now learned to just let her go. Like she'll go in
Mhm.
the kitchen and she'll want to quote cook. So she throws spices and water and pots and pans. And the deal is she can do that. I'm fine with buying more spices as long as she cleans up after herself. So that way she feels like she's not restricted. That's one area that I feel like I've figured it out. I've let her follow those urges. But the areas that are really tricky for us is that the lack of quote cooperation, I guess. Like
Oh yeah, they're not here to
she's at that
cooperate.
point. I mean, it's also like partially the age. So
Yeah.
it's and she's my oldest, so it's hard for me to know what's true for the age, what's true for being a manifester, and what's just her being a dick, you know? So like I don't know.
It's it
We don't know
is
how to
true. It
parent that.
is true. And I feel like a lot of manifestors when because they know
Hmm
you guys know you're a little abrasive. You know, I mean, a lot. I mean, it depends on what mood are in. It depends
Yeah.
on what type of
Yeah.
manifestor you are. It depends on your
hmm
definition. There's so many moving parts to all of our charts. But the biggest thing when it comes to raising a manifestor are two things, actually. One, you cannot raise a manifestor. We are not if you actually look at the foundational human design raw material, okay, and get take that for whatever it is, guys. You can decide to follow it or not. But if you go, I always say start with the foundation, just listen to it at
hmm
least, okay? So, foundationally, you do not raise a manifestor. A manifestor is actually raising themselves. This is something that Raw talks about that you can like basically, this is what he said in something. I forget where I read this, one of his lectures, or it might have even been in the definitive book, that you can basically let a manifestor like go out into the streets or into the woods and they'll just come back.
hmm
And you
Yeah, he
don't,
talks about giving them like a cell phone and they'll figure it out. And I
yeah.
literally did that test with her years ago. And yeah, she can figure out anything.
Yeah. That like, and so here's the thing that actually Raw also talks about with the manifester is that um it's about when it comes to informing, because that's what they're here to learn how to do, right? It's not really an innate thing. It's something that I've watching this play out in real life is just wild to me.
Mm.
But what the first step he actually talked about, I don't know if you've ever heard this, is that teaching them to ask permission,
Hmm.
which sounds contradictory
It does.
because they're not actually here to ask
Yeah.
permission as an adult.
hmm
But teaching them to ask permission helps them let you know that they're informing you on what they want to do, but they are also a child that does need, as a child, some
hmm
sort of direction.
Yeah.
But it's letting them be in control first. So where they come to you and ask for permission, they get an opportunity to inform. It's literally the beginning stages of informing
Mm.
because it's allowing them to have autonomy of self by saying this is what I want to do. Is this okay for me to do as a child? That's all it's doing. And so
Hmm.
that is something that I instilled in my little manifestor from the beginning, and also creating safety. Safety is such a big thing for manifestors because they know they're aliens. I told my manifestor that he was a manifestor when he was 5 years old, and I explained to him all that he is. He
Yep.
started crying.
Oh.
He gave me a hug and we sat there holding each other, and like that was the first time, I think, because I let him really see into himself, because their aura is closed, right?
Hmm.
That he was able to accept it. And he's like, I do know I'm different.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of, I guess we could say, challenges or even issues can arise as an adult manifestor, because they were never given that safe space to express. And as an open throat, I find it so fascinating that I have a wide open throat and I'm raising this little manifestor with this like bold energy, but doesn't know how to harness it. He's also an ego manifestor, which is also really rare. And everything about him is about the heart, and it's
Mm.
about confidence. It's about instilling confidence in him. And he's a very confident kid, except for new things, because he's a first line.
Oh,
First,
same with Brooklyn, even as a two, I mean, it could be that
yeah,
fourth line
yeah,
foundation. Yeah,
yeah,
she's
that
the
they don't
same.
know the stability. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
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 What would you say has been helpful with understanding human design for raising a manifestor? What parts of that have been helpful?
Great question. The first thing that comes to mind is allowing her that autonomy. Um, as well as with knowing her line two, and I guess being a manifestor as well, she really needs that alone time. We have two other kids who are younger and look up to her. She leads them in everything, which is good
Mm-hmm,
for us as parents. And then she needs a timeout away from everyone.
mm-hmm,
So, especially when we just went to Great Wolf Lodge, I'm like, I can see Brooklyn shutting down. She needs to just like go have some alone time or time with just daddy in the arcade after they go to bed. So, really understanding that's been helpful so she doesn't implode, especially with an emotional authority. She just
mm-hmm,
gets like just imploding. But definitely the autonomy piece. It is a weird balance though. She's only 10. How
mm-hmm.
do you, it's interesting giving her autonomy and still making sure she's safe and taken care of.
Yeah, I think when it comes to little manifestors, it's like having guidelines for them,
Hmm.
and also communication, like obviously, but like the throw, like just communicating with, this is the way life works. And I've also learned in informing the manifestor, like
Yes.
getting a manifestor to leave the house. One of the hardest things I've ever had
It's
to
like
do in
they
my
don't
life.
know time exists for other people. It's like they don't understand deadlines. And like, no, you're gonna miss the bus if you don't go out right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just gonna go say goodbye. You're gonna miss the bus if you don't go right now.
Yeah, because they want to be in control. I get
Yeah.
it. It doesn't make sense, the parent child dynamic as a
Yeah.
manifester. I get it.
Hmm.
So what I've learned with mine is to inform him. He's also a Cancer sun.
Mm.
So there's a hermit energy to him too.
Yeah.
Which I think also for every manifester in a way, because they need that alone time.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what your profile line is or anything else.
Hmm.
If you're a manifester, you need alone time, period.
Hmm.
And I would say non-sacrals too, goes hand in hand with them as well. But like letting him know, Milo, we are going to the grocery store. I need you to, like, in 1 hour. Now he knows time because he's older. 1 hour, you need to get your shoes and we're going to go. So he does the whole huffing and puffing for like, 5 minutes that I just told him we have to go do something. And then an hour from now, he's ready to go. And I've learned to also like ignore the initial thing, whatever I say to him initially,
Yeah.
I don't care. Like even if it's
Hmm.
something that he wants to do, he's going to be resistant towards it, because if you think
Hmm.
about the energy of the aura, it's repelling. So
Yeah.
you say
Yeah.
something to a manifestor, bounces off,
Hmm.
and they need to be in charge if it's going to eventually turn to a yes for them, and a lot of times it does. So I've learned also with raising a little manifestor, ignore the initial thing that you're going to say to them and their response to that, because that's not what it's going to be in the end. So
Good advice. I really like that, especially since mine is emotional too. That's really helpful.
yeah, they probably also need extra time,
Yes,
extra
yeah.
time to
Hmm.
like
Always.
get the wave in line to be able to
Hmm.
do the next thing.
Yeah.
So since this is a short episode, guys, we're gonna close out. If there's actually more that you guys would like us to talk about with in relation to manifestors, raising a manifestor, all of the things, let me know in the comments down below, and I will get
Mhm.
Adriana back on here and we'll
Yeah.
talk more about the manifestor. But tell all the manifestors, or someone maybe that has a little manifestor as well, what would be the number one thing that they should know about raising a manifestor? If you had to pick like just one thing, whatever it is, just like whatever comes to mind.
That they are going to anger you, and that's okay. Honestly, to like give yourself grace, because you're probably going to be triggered a lot by them,
Hmm.
and that's okay. You know,
Yeah.
deal with your own stuff. Let them be a mirror to like how you need to re-regulate, and just give yourself grace. You are learning their energy just as much as they're learning their own currently as they are growing up.
I like that. You're learning theirs just as much as they're
Yeah.
learning their own. It's
Hmm.
true.
Yeah.
They're only approximately 9% of the population. So uh, it's rare to even be in some sort of relationship with a manifestor that deeply.
Yeah.
So to have it be your child, it just the I feel like hierarchy wise as a power view, it seems off. Like it's
Yeah. She really runs the house.
yeah, you need to let them think that.
Yeah.
Um, so just be there guiding them, guys. And if
Yeah.
you want to know more, just let us know, and
Yeah.
we'll be happy to do this again.
And
But
my
thank
two other kids are different types. So I have a generator and a mani gen. So I have to learn how to parent
oh,
them all completely differently.
yeah, mine's a little generator. I think seeing your type in your child can be
Hmm.
the most healing experience of your life.
It
Maybe
is.
that's a conversation for another time because
Yeah.
my generator, my youngest, what is a 1-3 sacral generator, just like me.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a
Love that.
conversation for another time. But thank you for
Hmm.
coming on.
Thank
Let
you.
everybody know how they can connect with you after this.
Yeah, on Instagram it's Adri Keefe, Adri Keefe, or my podcast is the No BS Human Design Podcast.
Awesome. And I'll link that down below as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and thanks for being here. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.